r/AskReddit by Reddit and chill. Straight people, what do you want to ask about the LGBTQ+ community that you wouldn't ask in real life? I know it's none of my business what a trans person has in their pants. But if I'm on a dating app or something, isn't it a little bit my business? When is it okay to ask? If one answer is kind of a deal breaker for me, is it wrong for that to even be a deal breaker? We mostly don't put "hey we're trans" in our bios because there's a lot of chasers that fetishize trans people. It's not wrong to ask politely what genitalia the person has before dating. I do see it sometimes, but I assume it's not the norm because of safety concerns. Luckily, it hasn't come up yet. I just always feel a little guilty for wondering. Trans woman here. Pre-op. If somebody was uncomfortable with the fact it still exists, that's fine. I understand if it's a deal breaker. You may want a sexual relationship and UK-wise, surgery wait times are upwards of like 5 years. It's not discriminatory, you know. You like what you like and shouldn't be expected to feel otherwise, so long as you're not an ass about it. I consider myself open and supportive of the LGBTQ+ community, but I really don't understand drag queens. Are they all gay or trans? Are some drag queens straight? Is it just dress up and fun, or do drag queens have a serious side? If someone is a drag queen, please give me more info. Edit. Thank you for all the replies. I have learned a lot. Pretty sure they're mostly just guys that like to dress up. Definitely gay and trans ones out there, but plenty of cis and straight ones too. If I recall correctly, there was once a lesbian that pretended to be a drag queen. She even fooled other drag queens. A lot of drag queens actually accept cis lady drag queens. It's just about camping the hell out of femininity really. Cis girls can do that too. I'm older and have known a few people who married straight and even had children and then came out, usually after a divorce. For non-bi people who have been in this situation, did you believe you were straight, or just felt so pressured by social norms and LGBTQ oppression that you just turned it off? Like a light switch? I guess this question could actually apply to anyone who didn't just came out late, but for those who never even explored their true side, if you will. I'm not out right now to my family, and I definitely feel the pressure to do the norm and date guys. So I have to imagine that's what it is for a large portion of people, though possibility not even the majority or half. I would guess that it's much more difficult in a more conservative environment than a very liberal area. This didn't happen to me, but it's pretty close to why my parents split up. My mom and dad married while my dad was in the closet, and she came out as trans when I was 10 or 11. My mom has issues with being lied to and they got a divorce. My dad says that she tried to ignore being trans and tried to turn it off like a light, but it didn't work. So she would act hyper-masculine instead. She was very gruff and manly before coming out, or pretty much the stereotypical big firefighter hunter don't tread on me type, in an effort to seem straight cisgender. Eventually she couldn't do that, so started cross-dressing and taking hormones in secret until my mom found her pills and bras. Then she came out about a year later. Mostly, she was just really scared. She had realized she was trans literally right in the middle of the AIDS epidemic, and we live in a pretty conservative part of America, so she feared for her life if she showed any signs of queerness. She's a lot happier now, though. When two men have sex, how do they know which penis opens up to receive the other penis? This is a joke from The Office, but also a real, if extremely rare, thing. The answer is that the receiving penis requires a long process of gradual stretching, calyx stuffing with penile sounds and other objects, jelly worms for fishing, I hear, before it can accept another penis, which is to be pretty small. And it's time to get off Reddit and start my day. My oldest son is gay, shy, and on the spectrum. He'd like to meet someone serious who would love him for himself. He's tried a couple of dating apps and is now afraid of them because of some of the people he's met that way. Is there a safe place for my son to meet other men who aren't just looking for a quickie? So I understand your son is shy, but maybe have him download Meetup, which I am assuming you don't know. If you do, maybe, is an app for meeting friends and getting to know folks. This would be a great way for him to get to know someone without there being pressure for something more. Edit. There are LGBTQ+ groups on there which I am sure would love to have him hang out and do cool events, days in the park, go-karts, and etc. Thank you. I'll suggest that app to him. He's got his phone for the app, but until we can afford a new computer cord, the other one might have to wait. Thank you very much. : Happy to help. Hope he finds his love. I have a friend from high school who was a male and is now a female. When I talk about memories with them from before they transitioned, which pronoun do I use? Or should I avoid them altogether? We were close-ish in high school, but fell out of touch during college. Is it okay to use their past name when talking about things we did together? Edit. Row. I can't believe the response from everyone. Thank you for helping me figure out what to do, and it made me realize just how ignorant I was on the subject. Just following up, I shot her a text today asking to go grab lunch and catch up. The overwhelming response from everyone was to just ask her what she would like. So that's what I plan on doing. I'll try and remember to follow up later, if she is comfortable with me doing so. I find myself in this situation too, and I feel like it's just more respectful if you kept her pronouns as she and used her current name even when talking about the past. Thanks. It's hard for me to remember to switch, since I have very few memories of her being her. Something that can help in this particular situation is to imagine if gender wasn't part of the equation. By that I mean, say you had a friend named Ashley years back, but she goes by Emily now. It'd just be awkward to talk about her like Emily back when she was Ashley, and it'd just confuse the listener with info that isn't really necessary to the story. And if you accidentally called her Ashley, you'll just catch yourself in the middle and say sorry, Emily, and move on. Just do your best to think about her as her, and if you mess up, just quickly correct yourself and don't make a big fuss out of it. That's both the most respectful way, and the least uncomfortable for you and all others involved. My best friend I've known since elementary school is FTM. Love him to the moon and back, but I'm never brave enough to ask him about his dating choices throughout his transition. He's been transitioning for the past 5 years. Our whole lives he has solely dated women, but throughout his transition he has slowly started to solely be interested in men. He says it happens to a lot of FTMs. I just want to understand what happens throughout the process that things change like that. I went the other way, MTF, and went from being exclusively into women to I'm not really sure. I describe my sexuality as a non-committal shrugging gesture now. For me, accepting I was trans ironically made me realize how little gender actually mattered, and I think that had some impact on who I was attracted to. I also wouldn't rule out hormonal differences having an effect, but that's just a gut feeling, and I have no evidence to back it up. I think non-committal shrugging gesture deserves a place in the LGBT alphabet. LGBTNCSG. I don't have any questions. I hope you all live happy lives. Friend, I hope you have a great day, and also wish you a happy life. Does LGBTQ+ means that when you defeat the final straight boss, you get to restart the adventure with all equips and skills unlocked? Nah, it's the opposite. Coming out as trans basically switched on hard mode for me. Wait, yeah, isn't New Game Plus usually the hard mode? Like, sure, you still have all of your equipment and stuff, but the enemies start out infinitely harder to compensate, so it ends up as even more of a challenge. Everyone knows if you wanna max minutes you start male till 16, then hard swap after you get the height you want and roll girl at 80% to max both gender advantages. But if you don't time it right, it can muck up your stats forever. Is it joyful or demeaning to come out? From my perspective, it seems demeaning for a friend to come out to me, as if they owe me some explanation for being themselves. No one owes me an explanation for being themselves. However, it seems that folks in the community really enjoy having the moment to come out to friends and family. This has left me feeling confused on how I should react. Should I get super excited, hugs, kisses, or just calmly fist bump and say no need to explain? Love you regardless. Coming out is ducking hard. It's a hugely pivotal moment, and a lot depends on how the person I'm coming out to responds. It can be a moment of joy. Coming out as trans, to me, was a hugely powerful thing filled with so much excitement and opportunity, but it's also ducking terrifying. When I came out to my close friends, it was scary as duck, not because I thought they'd react poorly, but because they could react poorly, and these were people I was close to and whose friendship I valued extremely highly. I'm happy with either response that you mentioned. Though some people get a little bit weird and overexcited, do what feels right for your relationship with that person. If it's a chill bro sort of relationship, maybe a fist bump and a hug is right. If it's a more emotional sort of relationship, then a more emotional response might be appropriate. The fist bump is a good reaction. TBH, it's mostly joyous relief, with some exceptions, of course. Since you're finally sharing an important truth about yourself and shedding the weight of a lie. How much a burden it was being closeted beforehand will vary by person, but it's almost always experienced as stifling frustration to some degree. As the friend, you don't have to react super emotionally. Casual acceptance is powerful, so treating them the way you previously did is likely the best course of action. What they're usually looking for is confirmation that you're a safe and supportive person. So whatever that looks like from you is good. If you want to kick it up a notch, and your friend is clearly having an emotional moment of some kind when they're coming out to you, you can add a thanks for letting you sharing their important moment. But don't force it, just be true to yourself. They're trusting you with their truth and you might as well return the favor. I like this answer. Being chill and calm in these moments made me feel like I was being disrespectful. Now I'm seeing a different view on how the chill and calm reaction can actually be good. Much appreciated. Edit. Spelling is hard. I have a colleague. Colleague has a female name but looks, her, physically, voice and work uniform provided by the company, are male. Colleague also has a girlfriend. I usually address colleague by name, but we are not that close to ask which pronoun is better to use. Should I ask, or just keep calling by colleague name? We are not on the same area, but work close. Edit. College to colleague. Thanks for the correction. English is not my first language. Edit 2. Oh, I'll be listening the pronouns their friends use and copy that. We speak Spanish, so we don't have neutral pronouns. Thank you all. Use they them while you're unsure, and ask politely when you get the chance, and by politely I just mean asking, what are your preferred pronouns, as opposed to, are you a boy or a girl, and other such variants. Are you a boy or a girl? Only acceptable if they work at a laboratory as in Pallet Town. Normally I'd say to ask, but if this person is presenting as male and you think they're a cis man, it might not be well received, especially in a work context. If the name is Ashley or Lindsay, those are actually men's names, or they were before they were women's names. I'd first do a quick check online to see if their name is ever used for men. Next you could actually try just checking in with HR quickly. I'm genuinely curious about the moment a person is sure they're gay etc. I'm bi and it took me a long time. I was a late bloomer in all respects, but I think I had interpreted my feeling towards other women as being some weird version of envy, or like kind of the way young kids sometimes idolize older kids. It wasn't until I was in my late 20s that I fully came to terms with being bi, and it was actually way harder and way more emotional than I would have expected, especially given that I still mostly date men. You are describing my current situation perfectly, lol. Girl crush, or am I just really gay? Back when I was in the throes of questioning, I asked more than one of my gay friends about their reckoning. One of them said it built up until they just had to go do something gay. In retrospect, having super hot dreams about women and wanting to play with boobs should have been an indicator. I feel like I'm still figuring out dating women, which is a bit of a minefield for me. That whole how do you get experience for a job that requires experience problem, but sex with women is just awesome all the time. I'm like a real mid-30s woman when I'm dating men, and I'm like a nervous, horny 16-year-old when I'm dating women. Not exactly suave. Am I situationally gay? I was talking to my wife of 10 years, me being what I consider to be a straight male. Anyway, we were talking about transgender issues, and she in a purely hypothetical way asked me if she came to me one day and said she felt she was in the wrong body and took the steps to transition etc. would I end our relationship? I said absolutely not. I'm attracted to her as a person, her kindness, her personality, Her sense of humor, not her physical body. Sure, it helps that I'm physically attracted to her, but I could imagine my life without her and could not bear to live that way. We would eventually figure everything out as far as everything else goes, but I believe while I haven't had any gay tendencies before that, if my wife transitioned to a male, I would remain attracted to him. I think I'm situationally gay. Is this a thing? Wife to a trans woman here. This exact situation happened. I was in love with her formerly masculine self and never questioned. She came out and boom, I was fine. A moment of shock. But I still loved her and found her sexy. At the end of the day, isn't what gender I fell for, it's WHO I fell for. I married her without hesitation and we are deliriously happy. I just say I'm queer. You could identify as that, or still straight, or bi, or whatever. That just sounds like heartwarming love to me. Red heart. I wouldn't think too much about it as you are specifically attracted to your wife and not to men as a whole. That being said, I don't have a specific answer besides this. You sound like an incredibly sweet and loving person, and anyone would be lucky to have a spouse like you. When people list their pronouns, why do they write all three pronouns like he, him, his, or she, her / hers? Wouldn't it be enough to just list he or she? I consider myself an ally, but I have always wondered about this. Writing she or he on a profile seems kinda weird and maybe hard to get what you mean by it. The slashes and forms clarify it's a pronoun. Dunno. People like 3s. It's the minimum required for a list. Follow on question from this. Why do people who present as male and were born biologically as male include things like pronouns in their bio? If they were born male and aren't intending on doing any sort of transitioning, why is it necessary to include pronouns at all? I'm sorry, but as a gay dude, you're all asking the most bubblegum satfi blanket questions. Half of these could be answered with a 20-second Google. Here's my question. Do any other members of the LGBT feel that it's more of a marketing and political tool these days than an actual movement? A little bit. But I'd rather be treated as demographic worth marketing to than a vile rat that just needs to die. And things are changing for the better slowly. Yes, but that doesn't mean all of it is. And pride is still very, very important. The fact that we're at a point where being pro-LGBT is profitable marketing-wise is profitable makes me happy. Shows progress in society and makes bigots mad. But I'm not gonna suck any company's dong for doing something with rainbows. What does the Q stand for? It really depends on the person. At least from what I've seen. Some people take it to mean questioning. Some people take it to mean queer. Queer is a very umbrella term, but a lot of people avoid using it because it's been used as a slur for so long. I knew it meant queer, but I've always had a hard time putting my finger on what that means, other than a slur. I know it is being reclaimed but not sure of the meaning now. Edit. The question being, could you please enlighten me? Queer, to me, has always been a catch-all term used for people that don't really fit neatly into one of the other labels. When does the abbreviation stop growing? Each time a straight person complains, we add another letter. GSM, gender and sexual minorities, has become popular over the years and I suspect it will become de facto in our lifetime. GSM, gender and sexual minorities, has become popular over the years and I suspect it will become de facto in our lifetime. Let's be honest, about the time that non-LGBTQ people start to know and use that abbreviation, it'll change to something else. P. If you anger the abbreviation, another letter gets added. Being yourself and loving who you love is, I think, at the core of the LGBTQ+ community, and that is wonderful. I feel as though it has become trendy to essentially not be straight, though I may be way off the mark. But I have encountered more than a couple people who I would say essentially decide to not be straight, and it's not a choice. Do people in the community perceive this at all, and if so, what are the feelings about it? The main reason it seems like more people are gay is because more people feel comfortable coming out and being openly gay nowadays. I personally do feel like there are people out there who think it's a trend, and I don't like those people. Sexuality is fluid though, so some sexualities could only be a phase. Or you could think you're into a particular gender but then have an experience with them and realize that you're not. I do think that it's becoming more and more common to realize that you can be whoever you want now, and that's great. Maybe I'm just hanging out with more gay people though, lol. I kind of think of it's the opposite of trend. Anecdote. I'm 30 now, and while on one hand I'm clearly bisexual, on the other hand I'm significantly more interested in women. And I'm not really interested in dating anyone that I'm for sure not gonna marry, so I'll probably just be straight, because it suits my boring self and my life goals just fine. But I think had I understood that bisexuality was a real option when I was 16, I likely would have explored it, though even now it seems like bisexuality is more frowned upon than strictly being into the same gender. I think that for the past many centuries, the queer community has represented the intersection of people who are attracted to the same sex and people who don't much give a damn what society expects of them. Now that society is becoming more accepting, that is going to be increasingly people who are attracted to the same sex to some degree, which I understand to be a surprisingly sizable group. Can you be an asexual and do another one like bisexual or gay at the same time? Because asexual is not having sexual attraction but can have feelings of love to another. So I'm a bit confused. If yes, then is that classified as a bi asexual, gay asexual, or lesbian asexual? A lot of asero people I know use the split attraction model. For example, a female friend who's romantically interested in women but is asexual describes herself as homoromantic asexual. So the exact terminology that people prefer varies, but that's definitely a thing. I think it would be like biromantic asexual, homoromantic asexual, etc. Basically just a romantic suffix to describe love but not sexual attraction. Backing this one up, I'm a biromantic asexual. Romantic and sexual attraction are not the same thing. You can be heteroromantic and heterosexual, obviously, but your romantic and sexual attractions do not have to be the same. If you are in a lesbian or gay relationship and your partner comes out as trans, wouldn't that be a deal breaker for many? As in, you got together with a woman because you prefer women. If your partner transitions to a man, can you still be equally attracted? If a lesbian prefers butch lesbians but her butch partner transitions, how does that work? I realize this is probably a personal thing and each situation is different. I'm just curious. You're correct in saying that each situation is different. It really depends on the people involved, and there's no hard and fast rule there. I think for most couples it wouldn't be an instant breakup. Granted, some gay people have an issue with trans people and for them it would be, but for most couples I believe it's okay. I'll support you in this, but if at some point I stop being attracted to you, then I will respectfully break up with you and we'll probably still be close friends. There's not really an expectation to stay together if your partner completely stops being attractive to you in any way, even though the fact that you used to be attracted to them probably helps you stay into them a bit longer than you would. But every couple I've heard about going through this has stayed incredibly close friends because they still love and care for each other, just not in the same way. Ducking like and subscribe.